phase if they feel like that is the problem. So I think knowing that we also have RNG, RNG is not on the blue side currently. The graphic on your screen is wrong. It is Fnatic who is on the blue side.
And I like the adaptation for now for Fnatic here with Lulu Janna, not the Caitlyn. They still have the option to do it. They have the option to ban the Galio as well and still look to first pick that Tristana. Now, obviously, if Galio gets banned away here, RNG can also just ban Tristana themselves.
So far, no pivots from the previous game, and the question is this going to be a Taric again? Is this going to be something more valuable? Will the Gnar make it through the ban phase? sOAZ played phenomenal on that champion. 10 seconds left, and Jatt, which direction are they going?
I want to see the run back. I want to see the Taric ban into first pick Trist into Jarvan Galio once again.
You want to see that game again?
Oh, they banned Trist.
Denied it, unfortunately.
Now, Fnatic, when it comes to Galio, it's mainly sOAZ who plays it in the top lane. Caps only used it once in the mid lane, and that's one of the big questions here. Will Fnatic just first pick the Galio? Do they take the Jarvan instead? But then they still lose sejuani on the other side. Like, it's a very hard first pick now that Tristana gets banned.
Caps has to be willing to pick Galio. That's the only outcome that makes sense for Fnatic here, because if they can't trade the power of Trist for the Jarvan Galio combo, they have to control it themselves.
Again, worst case, they can put a top lane for sOAZ. Even though not a lot of teams are doing that at the moment, it is an option.
It's something that sOAZ has done twice here, as you mentioned. And when that was locked in, Caps' reaction is Cam, not hugely positive. A lot of pressure, a lot of weight on that kid's shoulders right now. We'll see whether or not he's going to play that Galio. No surprise there for the Jarvan for Mlxg once more.
And we still now have these supports like Karma and Taric that goes up in priority, and even the Rakan with the Lulu Janna bans. And we have to see if Fnatic wants to grab the Karma again for Jesiz to try and get that strong laning phase. There's still a ton of AD carries here. Who's going to go for late game scaling? And that's what he's doing.
Especially with the Janna and Lulu off the table, locking it in so early, but he's essentially making the bet here that the Varus or the Ashe from Rekkles, the other two biggest lane bullies available, wouldn't be good enough to put him in a big enough hole that Twitch doesn't become worth it.
It's a big one here. sejuani, no surprise for Broxah, actually had a very good game on it. We asked for him to be the main engage, and he actually succeeded with it. Taric coming in as well here. Against the Jarvan, it's very easy to time the Taric ulti, because you literally see the guy jump forward towards you, and you click that ulti at the same time to try and make sure no one dies instantly.
Small pivot as well. We see so often these sort of jungle AD carry support during phase 1 picks. Going to allow RNG the option to ban some ADCs or obviously remove some off top or mid laners, which you've seen happen fairly frequently. And remember, for the previous game, Shen has found himself in those phase 2 bans very often.
And they're also saving a support counter pick with this Shen. It is something that they would need to be able to get extra shielding onto Uzi 4, assuming they do get Galio Dove, since they can't get that same level of protection from their support. So I actually think the Shen here is quite a smart pick. It's just a question of whether or not they now target their bans towards top laners to prevent sOAZ from having a counter pick, knowing full well that the Galio could actually just be what they play against Shen.
Exactly, there's definitely the option of the Galio top, but then Cho'Gath and Mlxg still open for him. They're actually taking away Taliyah on Fnatic's side now. Has been Caps' pick so far, but they're respecting the fact that there's so much global with a Taliyah and a Shen to stop Fnatic from being aggressive in the early game.
It's very difficult to ban out Rekkles' AD carry pool as well, because it is so abnormal here, because he's the type of guy who played AD carry Kennen for a lot of the early season, but the two hyper-scaling guys that would be in the pool right now are the ones they remove.
Yeah, if you do log in the Varus, you have a lot of CC with this comp, like,
I feel like it's Varus.
The Galio, the sejuani, and then you can time the Varus ulti within a follow-up stun from a Taric, and it's very hard to lane against because you know the enemy mid laner will come down with the big global ult.
All right, so what does this mean for the lost solo lanes here? Mid lane still an option, still a potential to flex this Galio. If you've got Galio in there, do they add any more globals? I mean, Renensol has been a discussion. We've been flirting with the idea, but I guess it depends on what RNG lock in for mids.
Exactly, and with the Taric here, it makes it difficult for RNG to go like Karma or Soraka, because again, they're looking at this champion that can actually set up ganks against them with his stun. And then, do you have to go non-Ardent? And we look at Tamken's Braum, these kind of picks all of a sudden.
There's still Soraka.
That is a risky one now.
Yeah, and the Shen can still ult the Soraka if Fnatic decide to dive him. So I feel like that's definitely a pick that slipped through the cracks a little bit, because it is what they used for victory in games 1 and 2. They opt that the Taliyah and the Rakan bans are more important, not wanting to give RNG Taliyah Shen, which is a lethal side lane combo.
Okay.
The size would be...
I'm waiting for the actual login.
It's the
Okay,
Varus.
that's the Varus we mentioned before we go all
We all
crazy
hesitated.
about the
Would they
Jin here.
really? But no, they go for Varus. And that's, for the Ardent Censer usage, it was a big meta pick in the play-in stage. Also felt like it had a lot of success in scrims, but hasn't found the same type of success on stage.
It's just a very strong laning pick. You have to get ahead in the early game, so when you walk into team fights with that Rage Blade and Ardent Censer, you are such a strong carry that can actually kill whatever frontline is in front of you. Issue is always kiting around because you have no extra mobility, but there's a Taric ulti, there's a massive taunt from a Jarvan, from a Galio, and it is actually Caps taking that Galio in the mid lane. I'm glad to see this. Again, Galio and Talia been 2 picks you can use now.
Right, we'll see what Fnatic can do with it. They've got a severe lack of magic damage. As this game continues to play out, Corki will round out the RNG team composition, and they're going to have a lot of damage to try and deal with the split push in the front line that Fnatic can put out.
Yeah, that is RNG's focus of this draft, is late game damage in a lot of different positions. And then also, the Soraka has shown a lot of success, so will Fnatic be able to burst through the Twitch and the Corki through Soraka shields and Shen shields? Because if they don't, they would be on an insane timer. It's feeling like Fnatic needs to smash the laning phase to win this game.
I mean, that is one of the goals here with the draft, with Galio mid lane and the Varus in the bot lane. RNG did not protect Ming early game. Both times he played it, he got ganked and he gave away first blood. Fnatic looking to do exactly the same thing in this game here. Yes, it gets harder later on with the Shen, but you're still bringing a lot of people to the party because you have the Galio mid.
Well, let's see how well they can play with the Galio mid. It's not something that we've seen Fnatic pull off a huge amount in terms of their itemization. Caps definitely shows up when he's got a damage-dealing mid laner. Let's see what he does in the supportive mid laner. And Jatt used the words burst down Ming. There's not a huge amount of burst. However, there is an insane amount of crowd control between Varus, Gnar, sejuani. Like, there's so many options to lock people down.
And Fnatic can be in a position where they have 3 pushing lanes in the early game. So when you think about the absolute cohesion of these late game team fights, things start falling apart. But Fnatic's goal this game is to get some early kills onto Ming, start snowballing ahead, have your Ardent Censer on Taric by 20 minutes, take Baron, and win this game before 30. It's absolutely a viable strategy. We talk a lot about the Ardent Censer meta, and we were talking about it again before the show, about how I think it's a misconception that it is a late game item. It is much more of an early to mid game item. When it is completed, it generally adds about 35% more damage to the AD carry due to the life on hit, the magic damage you deal, and the attack speed being a big multiplier in that stage of the game. Those flat numbers don't increase towards late in the game, so at endgame it's going to be a 10 or 15% damage increase. It's all about Jesiz getting the sensor with the Fnatic power spike, with the lead if they want to win this game.
We see right now trying to be even safer in lane, going for cleanse on the Twitch here, meaning there's no barrier you got to get through as well, but he's respecting the amount of CC on Fnatic's side. Like, all 5 members can actually bring some crowd control. They get Ming for now.
A very cheeky dazzle over the wall there from Jesiz, I believe just outside of vision. Doesn't result in anything else, but it's another game that starts off with some shenanigans. Double teleports on the side of RNG. It is matched by the double teleports on the Fnatic side. Looking at the rest of those summoner spells, and Mlxg on this Jarvan. Let's look at his early game. When he played it in game 3, it was a gank down bottom, and it was pushing Rekkles and Jesiz away.
And I would like to see Mlxg just not go warrior in this game. Like, go at least full tank. If you're gonna go warrior, skip the black cleaver. Like, you don't need more damage when you have Corki and Twitch in the late game. That is already fantastic for you. And if he's going for the squishy build, Rekkles late game can still kill him, even though he's basically a single damage dealer.
Yeah, and QuickShot, I like the use of the word shenanigans, because that's an amazing way to describe this series. Even if one of these teams jump out to an early lead, that's not to say they're going to be able to close it because of all the shenanigans that have been happening in the side lanes, dying to turrets, not being able to secure Baron. So much has been up in the air in this series, and even though RNG is 2-1 up, that game too, Fnatic had the control to win as well. It's been able to swing back and forth.
It's been a very, very close series between 2 teams here fighting for that semi-final spot. If you win, you get to face SKT, who won 5 games against Misfits yesterday. Uzi and Ming trying to see if they can rush level 2 first. Meanwhile, though, we gotta look top lane now, because with the Gnar here, Fnatic do have the option to once again try and actually get sOAZ rolling in the early game. And Mlxg, he's up here to try and prevent it.
We've seen Mlxg and Broxah trending towards top lane fairly often, fairly early, and there's not enough distance from Broxah to close. All right, sOAZ going to get caught out by that Shadow Dash taunt. Teleport being channeled by Caps. Insta-flash from sOAZ. The burn's not enough to kill. Now, is there enough to turn this around? Idol of Durand, rather Shield of Durand, locks down 2 members of RNG. The interrupt. First blood's available. Picked up by Broxah. Flash away from Mlxg. He's going to survive. Broxah doesn't go for the tower dive.
And XiaoHu does not opt to match the teleport in that 2v2. Also, critically, sOAZ skills up leap at level 2 once again for the possibility of that gank.
Mlxg had 1 HP when he stayed alive right there, but Caps, second game for him. Ever since he joined Fnatic on this Galio, his first move is instantly TP top lane to try and turn around a gank.
He has shoved in the top lane, but we have to watch the origin of this play. Broxah starts on Scuttlecrab as Mlxg sneaks by. They chain the CC onto sOAZ before he flashes, but since sOAZ isn't one-shot, he jumps away and flashes, can't follow. But then it's a 2v2 and RNG just used all of the spells they could. Level 3 was Caps, level 2 was XiaoHu, so that's why he opted not to match, and they pick up 1 kill. Unreal they didn't get that second.
So close here for Fnatic, but what a start. We talked about this before the game. When you just win that insane game 3, if you get a great start to the next game, suddenly that confidence and momentum just keeps building and you can start making better and better plays.
We opened the segment from the ad break and I kind of made a joke about plot armor. Gotta remind everybody that RNG were 2-0 up in the LPL finals this summer against EDG. And then they got reverse swept. We heard the analyst desk breaking it down at the end of the last game. Now, it is far, far too early to say that that's going to happen now. However, first blood, confident plays from Fnatic on a composition that needs an early advantage. That's what Fnatic have to do more of to steamroll ahead and make this Galio, Gnar, Sej combo work.
Yeah, and I really want to see if Mlxg plays around bot side, because that's where Fnatic is going to get their biggest advantage. What happens in so many of Fnatic's successful games is they actually do an early gank, top or mid, then they just collapse everything bottom lane. They're going for the 5-man dive this early on.
Oh, this is so scary. Uzi's going very low. Ambush is going to buy some time. Teleport has been completed by sOAZ. Mega Gnar's going to time out. Flashes away from Ming and from Uzi. Jesiz is tanking up the tower. That's the first kill. Another to Broxah, second of the game. Ming's running for his flash. There's no plant. There's no flash. Broxah hops over the wall. Kill will be secured here, and it looks like it's going to be donated to sOAZ.
Getting more of these plays here. The Galio able to push in the mid lane, then walk to bottom lane, and of course sOAZ didn't TP back to his top lane. Saved it for this specific play. And so smart that is waiting and waiting for the flashes, and then they suddenly turn.
And I think it was a big miscommunication on the side of RNG, where Mlxg was in transit, and Uzi and Ming decide to run out, while Mlxg goes in, because either you stay under the turret, or you all desert the turret. But right here, Uzi and Ming both wait in camouflage as much as they can before flashing.
And it's important the minion waves are here, because the tower hitting the minions, they haven't hit champions yet. It's not until now when Jesiz hits the champion, he's actually tanking the turret. So because they were waiting and waiting, they didn't end up taking too many tower shots, and Mlxg just kind of jumped too early.
And also, Uzi has cleanse there. I actually think RNG should have just stayed under the turret, teleported in with XiaoHu, and played the 4v5, but by scattering, they give 2 kills to Fnatic, and a lot of that is from the patience of Fnatic that Deficio mentioned. RNG was expecting a much more ambitious dive.
Let's also remember now that TP is gone from XiaoHu's side. He's in the mid lane though. Caps, what are you doing?
Oh, Caps gets shut down for some reason.
Why would you not just recall?
Major pathing mistake on the side of Caps. Donates a kill to XiaoHu's Corki.
And that could also be inexperience on the pick. They had to do the first pick Galio. Caps has to bring it out. His roaming plays have been sound, but thinks he's tankier than he is against XiaoHu, Shen, Corki right there, and gives up a free kill.
I don't know. Maybe, misclick on the minimap. It looked like there was another dive being set up. We'll have to ask Caps about that later, but this is just shocking. Well,
this is what preempted the solo kill, so to speak. He walks through the river, Mlxg and XiaoHu are waiting there, and Caps, he can just go back to base. Brox is there if they're going to try and push the turret, but he wants to clear the wave with his Q. XiaoHu sees it. He's level 6. What are you doing? They trade flashes and Caps goes down. Massive blunder.
Caps did hit level 6. Once he returned to lane, though, can still try and look for a play bot lane. We've already seen the focus here from Fnatic. Ready to use this Galio in both side lanes. Apart from that one mistake, the Galio performance so far has been good. That one was a big one.
Yeah, huge error. RNG, despite being down 2 kills, they're only behind 400 gold. as thanks to a large CS advantage for LetME in the top lane, as well as XiaoHu in the mid lane. All of that attention in those other lanes is allowing RNG solos to farm up.
And this game, we gotta keep tracking the globals all the time, because there are 4 teleports, and then there's a Shen ulti, then there's a Galio ulti as well, to try and move from lane to lane. So a lot of things to keep track of for us and the teams in-game. You gotta make sure you have the perfect timers here. Fnatic will know that the Shen ulti is available, so the next tower dive is a lot harder to execute.
Yeah, and the question is, can they even step up to the turret to get the large amounts of damage? Because that's how you start the snowball, is you get the first turret down, you keep the Twitch starved, but they didn't even kill the Twitch in that, and they didn't get kills onto their own bottom lane, so they don't actually have a huge advantage to play around. Ninja Tabi was an early build for Rekkles there on Varus. That doesn't get you early turret kills.
Well, it does mean that he's trying to protect himself for the ulti later coming from Uzi, where he will take some of the hits, and he wants to try and just play aggressive early on and utilize the extra armor he's getting. But interestingly enough, RNG can't really force aggressive plays around their bot lane either, because it's a Soraka. It's really hard to set up a play. So Shen is really here as a defensive mechanism, and then they need wards behind Fnatic if they actually want to TP in aggressively. They don't have any wards at the moment to use.
Looks like they're trying again. Broxah is 6. Flash is still down for another 15 seconds on RNG's side. Could try and run the same play. Caps wants to ult in.
Find out if he can. Caps coming in with that available teleport up for sOAZ as well, but he needs to get away from LetME. And RNG, they had enough support to stop that dive.
Yeah, as soon as they spot Fnatic move down to the bottom side, LetME steps away from his wave. It does buy time for sOAZ to hit the tower. That is a side effect of Fnatic threatening to tower dive in the bot lane, is that sOAZ get free time top.
And while Fnatic may not have the largest amount of damage on this team composition, the split push threat of Gnar is going to grow, especially if sOAZ can play like he did in the previous game. He really put a lot of Fnatic on his back. All right, Caps, Justice Punch, let's see if he can interrupt. Not going to. The package definitely going to allow XiaoHu just to escape safely, and he's found himself a plus 25 in that mid lane.
Yeah.
I think that's actually going to negate the assists. Yes, in actual fact, plus 600 gold over Caps.
Yeah, and you see the bottom lane hasn't actually gained an advantage. It is Broxah who holds the gold lead for Fnatic right now, 800 over Mlxg, because he has been dictating the pace to RNG. Instead of Mlxg trying to go top lane and get LetME ahead in this game, he's tried to stay bottom to keep the Twitch alive. I think it's the right call, and currently it's working pretty well for RNG.
So Fnatic can switch it up. Say, let's attack the global in the top lane instead, because sOAZ will have to push in that lane. That is a first tower ready to go down. If Caps and Broxah move to the top side, Shen is forced away or Shen will die. And again, we know in the bottom lane that RNG struggle to force a play with this Soraka here, and they're not really getting the push either. It is definitely an opening for Fnatic. I think they should take it and use it to get first tower.
Looking at the minimap, looking at the vision, not a lot of deep wards. RNG have littered that right-hand quadrant with some control wards, obviously because of how much time Fnatic have spent there. Look at Mlxg, look at Broxah slowly coaxing themselves toward the top lane.
And again, that's the thing. If the enemy team is expecting you to go bot lane and they get to set up this many defensive wards, change it up. Broxah is now on top side. I like this here. Uzi and Ming are in the mid lane, actually. They're going to go down bot lane now, but they were moving in to mid to see if they had to rush top in case a tower dive happened.
RNG trying to be far ahead of the play right here, and they were mid with Twitch. They would have been great if they stayed, because here comes Broxah.
All right, XiaoHu's got Flash and Valkyrie available. There's the Valk used, trying to dodge and dip, and there's the Flash used as well. Ming will buy some time with the Equinox. Stand United trigger was not pulled, but because of that mid-fight, it means there's no setup on the top tower, there's no potential dive, so sOAZ and LetME are left to their own devices.
And all RNG has to do is play defense. Easier said than done against the Galio as well as Taric, who can just use all of their cooldowns, get the invulnerable turret dive, and go for the play with the early executioners calling from Rekkles. But besides that, he's really lacking damage on the Varus, and the question is, can you actually dive through a Soraka ult and a Shen ultimate even with your defensive capabilities?
They don't have to. This is the play I'm looking for. Fnatic just saying, you know what? We don't care about bot side. We want a free first turret. sOAZ is able now to get this tower down. He will keep having pressure in this lane. He can push it further down after he kills the tower. And because LetME are only on defensive duty, no one is starting a fight on the bottom side with the Soraka. He's not able to do anything but just watch his tower die.
But is this enough? It's a 2,000 gold lead. Fnatic's team composition obviously going to become more powerful over the next 5 to 10 minutes And then it starts to become scary, and then Fnatic needs to start worrying about the Corki and the Twitch as they get to the 2 and 3 item spikes.
Yeah, that is a lot of time still. These tanks here are so good in the mid game because the base damage they have is still very high, especially things like Galio. Now sOAZ can apply more pressure topside, start roaming in towards mid lane. There's no flash on XiaoHu, so he can start actually applying extra pressure on the Corki.
Yeah, and RNG, if they want to break this cycle, need to get harass damage down onto anyone who is trying to make these rotations. And Fnatic doesn't actually have to die, because that's what RNG is built to try and defend. They just need to keep their 3 pushing lanes and be earlier on the rotations to get more people in front of the turret, because the wave clear for RNG is good, but not great, as long as they can keep attacking the Shen.
Ooh, they're moving down here now, but look at the Shen on the minimap. He's already left his lane. He's ready for this one play.
Find out whether or not RNG commit to the fight or if they just concede
Uzi's out of
the
there.
tower. Uzi and Ming have backed away. We're looking at Fnatic vision for now. There's Uzi starting to move forward after the ambush. A flash engage from Mlxg puts the Cataclysm down. He gets stunned up. Caught by the taunt. Cosmic Radiance is going to buy so much time. Broxah gets a stun onto Uzi. He uses the cleanse to escape.
Massive miscommunication on RNG's side. LetME walk back into the lane, was standing in front of a Mega Gnar, so he could not ult down on Mlxg. He thought he had the ulti on him. No chance, because LetME again walk back in lane. He's coming now.
Here comes the package with Shen!
All right, that's a defensive flash from Rekkles. The taunt comes down. Here Resentments does nothing to save Fnatic. RNG get their first kills of the fight, and it's a double. They turn the next ones around. That's another for Uzi. sOAZ has joined up to completing his teleport on the tower. XiaoHu gets taken down. Caps and sOAZ trying to turn this around. Uzi's running into Fnatic territory as flashes are used to escape.
Oh, he got him!
Rank tags onto Ming. He's already used the flash. sOAZ will be able to gnaw out and look to crunch down. The sOAZ has already used his flash, though, and the tower still stands. Ming's going to keep trying to heal up with those star calls, and sOAZ playing very far forward. Black Cleaver's completed, but he's got nothing further to follow up.
Yeah, chase in the end doesn't result in much, but we have to talk about the dive and fight that was. So the miscommunication comes through at the very first place, when you wonder why RNG is doing this if Shen isn't in position, because you thought Shen was back to jump in on the Jarvan for this play. Initially, though, it essentially baits out the Taric ultimate with the Jarvan ultimate, but right here, they gotta save him with Shen. They instead hold onto it, but that potentially baits Fnatic into a false sense of security. Think they have Jarvan dead, but the package is sounded, he's got it, and Stands United is still there. Teleports in with the package, flies all the way through the Fnatic team.
Such a sick engage here from XiaoHu, and exactly what RNG needed. They were currently losing a lot of kills, and the top lane tower already dying, made it hard for us to play the game, but this play here does give a lot of gold over to the correct members as well. Uzi picks up 2 kills, XiaoHu as well picked up another kill from that fight, so the 2 carries that they need are getting the kills.
Yeah, but the turret break is still a very real threat. This game can be reaching its breaking point rather soon. Rekkles still not at his Ginsu's Rage Blade, but that bottom turret on a sliver, if they control that as well as take that Rift Herald and they get a 3 turret to 0 snowball, you're talking real map pressure that can be paid forward on Baron spawn.
Yeah, they're forcing RNG to decide now. Do you want to try and defend bottom side, or do you want to stop a Rift Herald? We can see Mlxg is on the bottom side already. Shen is in mid. They're just saying, you know what, we lost that top side. Just get a Drake and see if maybe you can keep this tower alive, but it's a few hits.
Just a few hits away from Fnatic taking number 2. Rift Herald is picked up as well. It's going to give another tool to Fnatic. I believe it's actually secured by sOAZ as well, so he can keep putting pressure on LetME, keep trying to keep Shen on the back foot.
Yeah, and he can use this on a tier 2 tower in the top lane if he wants to, because he will just sit in this side lane and control it. RNG found the one way to force the aggressive engage here with XiaoHu, and it was well executed, so we're still fairly even in gold.
And as much as this series was about Uzi versus Rekkles, this series has turned into sOAZ versus RNG. Like, yes, they need to get that early turret snowball going, but even in the late game, if RNG is going to be forcing these team fights, it's all about whether or not they can get the minion waves under control, which is what sOAZ is creating in that side lane. He's going for an early Frozen Mallet, he can win 1v1s against LetME in the side lane, and he's the one that needs to prevent RNG from grouping up to get the fights.
All of RNG are moving towards mid here.
Find out what happens. Mlxg puts the Cataclysm down. Little hop over the wall as RNG also choke on that engage. Not going to be able to find Fnatic.
Well. And I don't understand why Mlxg is consistently using Cataclysm on sOAZ before he leaps away. It's a completely wasted engage tool, and sOAZ is completely fine.
It's been a very bad game for Mlxg so far on this Jarvan here. Not been successful. at all. I like his adaptation with the tank build instead. Realizing, yeah, you don't need to deal damage. You have Uzi and XiaoHu on 2 big late game carries. But there's still a lot of tanks on Fnatic's side, and they will take time to die. So if RNG in these late game fights can't actually burst anyone down, also due to a Taric ult, Rekkles will get a lot of time to deal his DPS.
Right, Rageblade was just picked up by Rekkles. sOAZ is making his way towards his second item completed. Lane swapped a little. sOAZ and Broxah working on middle, camps with teleports and that hero's entrance. He's shoving in the top lane. As far as CS is concerned, Rekkles is now overtaken Uzi. Obviously, sOAZ has overtaken LetME. So those early sort of 0 to 6 minute plays have now been counterbalanced. Fnatic, they're in control of the map, the towers. They're in control of the tempo of this game. But it was to be expected with this team composition that they're executing on.
Exactly, yeah. sOAZ in the mid lane with the Rift Herald means that is the objective they're going towards. Always good to get all the outer turrets down as fast as possible. You see all members of Fnatic moving in.
A lot of Magicers just stacking by caps, going for lock and second out, maybe an engage here.
Oh, he messed it up.
What a mistake from sOAZ. You can tell he does not get Heraldina a lot. He ends up being interrupted by that Equinox.
That's a big misstep because the mid turret is so much about breaking the map open so that they can go towards the Baron.
He was standing right in front of a Soraka with the silence.
Yep. I haven't seen much Soraka lately. No.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Jatt. Definitely breaking that one down. There's the Equinox. It popped. sOAZ and Rekkles dodge it this time around. A couple of autos longer onto that tower as Ming is throwing out those star calls. I'm looking at Uzi. He's just at the bottom lane, goes back to push it out.
Yeah, and that tower should be dead by now. So Fnatic already looking to reset and go back and return to a map where there are no outer turrets, and they can start really pushing the lanes deep and get full vision around top side where the Baron is spawning soon.
And Uzi is getting closer and closer to Infinity Edge. In the other Twitch games we have seen from Uzi, he does nothing but farm until he gets the Infinity Edge. He's actually picked up 2 kills though, thanks to that extended fight in the bot side, and will be able to complete it in about 650 gold.
Yeah, Uzi's Twitch broke the hearts of G2 eSports fans during the group stage. He also ended that game with a ridiculous KD, over 10 kills, destroying G2 in the mid to late game. That last wave will get cleared out and just a little closer. And Deficio, you said it, that mid outer tower should have been down. It should have allowed Fnatic to control and push further forward. Because they have not, it's giving RNG all the time they need as they've gone past 20 minutes to get those damage items. Right, Mlxg this time round does not fire that Cataclysm onto a target, even though Broxah had already used that Arctic Assault.
Yeah, so Fnatic keep having full control of the mid lane here. They're the ones who can push the lane first. They're the ones who can get onto this tower. They have a lot of protection around it as well. There's wards, there's of course a jungler near Rekkles, and Rageblade Ardent Censer is there, so he's very strong at this point if a fight breaks out.
You can still see the respect they're giving to the Twitch, however. I do find it interesting how XiaoHu is the one matching sOAZ. They're not really able to match it, it feels, with LetME at the moment, and the double TP is still there. That could be a good late game answer for dealing with the Gnar if RNG continues to play that way.
I think this is the kind of game where LetME could have gone for Sunfire instead of Tiamat. Get some of the early stats for himself and still have some ability to actually push out lanes. Tiamat itself is hard for him to use against the Gnar in the 1v1, and just kind of damage item he's not really benefiting from just yet.
And Uzi's got his Infinity Edge with the mid turret still standing as Baron comes out. I felt like one of the keys to Fnatic's win condition here was to be able to force around Baron come 20 minutes, and they're not in the position where they can do that. At this point, it's about vision control and maybe sneaking it with the Taric because it's really difficult to team fight against Uzi.
They just don't have the greatest Baron damage with the comp here, like with all the different tanks. Sure, of course, a fully stacked Rageblade is great, but that is about it. So RNG should know they have enough time to react in case, whoa, 4 Fnatic members are missing. Surely they're at Baron, and you have to go and try and stop them.
Well, let's see what Fnatic decide to do. You've touched on the eye edge from Uzi. It is a tanky build for Mlxg. Randion's just picked up for LetME. And sOAZ has got himself that Frozen Mallet. So very committed to that side lane pressure game that honestly gave Fnatic a lifeline in this series. Let's see if sOAZ can do it again. Re-sieging the mid lane. He's going to be a little bit tired after Gnaring out and going back down to mini Gnar form. Good stun onto Uzi in the back end. I think he managed to sidestep it. In fact, Cataclysm locks up Mlxg. Stand United completes the con. Taunt buys a lot of time. That's a great Durant taunt. First kill of the fight for Fnatic, and the tower remains alive. RNG are peeling away in a 5v4.
Very important that Fnatic win this fight here. They want to get down this tower so badly. There's no ulti left on Uzi's side. Mlxg tried to jump in with that Shen ulti, but once again, Fnatic kill it.
RNG used everything. The Taric counter pick right there for the Jarvan. They're almost back at full health thanks to the sensor from Taric. Hit, heal, hit, heal. They go for another turret.
All right, tower's being focused down. The shield of Durant threatening a taunt. Cap still had flash available, and Uzi's able to clear the wave. Fnatic eventually knocked that tower down. Now they can start playing around the jungle or entrances to the jungle a little more.
And it's what we mentioned in Champs, like when you play Taric against Jarvan, like you can see the engage right in front of you. It's so easy to time it with your ulti. No damage coming in from RNG to kill anyone. 2 flashes were used in the fight, but it was Broxah and sOAZ. So Rekkles still sitting with his flash. Very important for the next fight.
The same can be said for XiaoHu and Uzi. 2 damage dealers on the side of RNG. Find themselves, it's still only a 2,000 gold game. It has been for the last 10, 12 odd minutes.
Yeah, and
Uzi good sign.
Still going to be farming up. Fnatic not even pulling back for the Cloud Drake, which I think would have been really easy to take after that. Saying they don't care about it means XiaoHu's just going to pick it up. Second Cloud Drake doesn't mean that much, but it still is more control for RNG picking this up.
It's going to give them the option, I guess, to move between those lanes a little quicker. Eventually goes down.
Cloud Drake does so much damage, man, when you're trying to solo it. It attacks faster than all the other Drakes to apply that % health damage, but XiaoHu does pick it up.
Another reason to never kill it.
Yep, just leave it up.
Is that another... I think it's enough gold for Infinity Edge for XiaoHu. Wait for him to finish that recall, and yes, so it's going to be another big spike in damage for the RNG squad to try and burn through Fnatic in these extended fights.
And we talked a lot about how RNG's comp is very defensive. It's not really a comp where it's easy to force a lot of plays on Fnatic side, unless Mlxg is able to find Rekkles. But there is flash available right now. There's a Taric next to him as well. So you see RNG in the mid lane have to just surrender the push here. They always let Fnatic push the wave first, and that means Fnatic always have access to the enemy jungle first, or the river first. They can move in, set up their vision, and all RNG are doing is sit back and hope someone overextends. It's just a matter of time before Fnatic will actually start the Baron, and then get the teamfight they're looking for.
Yeah, and 3 times out of 6, the guy who's overextended has been Mlxg. He's ulted in for the Taric ult and not had the disengage ready, because the whole trick to playing against Taric is to threaten him enough that he ults and then disengage, because if you fight in the midst of those Taric ultimates, you often just end up losing the fight, and Mlxg has not disengaged well after going in to get the Taric ult.
Another thing when you play against Taric is if you can actually flank, suddenly a lot of members might scatter around in the fight, and the Taric ulti does not connect on every single member. So when you're looking at Uzi here on this Twitch, if he's able in the late game fights to sneak around Fnatic, find a good opening from the side or behind, it gets much harder for Jesiz to use the Taric properly.
And also, how do you play around Baron in this game? Because a Taric team heals to full when doing Baron. If Jesiz actually goes in the pit, he can refresh his heal every 2 auto attacks to heal again and consistently apply Ardent Censer. With the control word inside there, they need to consistently threaten that play.
And right now, Fnatic should just reset the whole map. Go back, get your new control wards, and then when you return, the mid lane especially is where you need to push it further than just past the river. Get it all the way in towards that tier 2 tower of RNG, and then move into their jungle and get deep vision. So when you move down to start the Baron, you can see them move in. You know, do we have enough time to finish it? When do we turn? Who's coming first? And right now, Fnatic do not have that vision, so they need this full reset. You need to sell your Dorn plate in this game here. You're in a quarterfinal at Worlds, and you need control wards instead.
Yeah, Dorn shield on Rekkles, rather important to be able to close out on. But also, as far as Galio compositions are concerned in the early game, 1,000 gold is much less than Fnatic wanted to have at 26 minutes. So all the vision control they are trying to get is much more difficult to achieve. We got the Infinity Edge completed by XiaoHu. He's got solo Turret gold. The Last Whisper already on the Infinity Edge Uzi. So it's a very dangerous game Fnatic plays every time they go for that vision.
And I want to talk about why Fnatic are not just rushing down this mid lane. It's because it's hard to ward both sides of the jungle at the same time. And that means suddenly there is a flanking opportunity for Mlxg with a Shen ulti on him. And it's so hard for these teams because there's so many control wards often on the map that if you don't see anything on the left side or the right side, you kind of hesitate. And you end up just pushing the wave once and then go into the river. And you don't actually get the deep vision.
Talking about all that vision, of course, just outside this Baron pit, you can see the remains of an RNG ward. Throughout this entire series, they've kept multiple wards just outside that pit. Fnatic seem to be aware of it, though, using those sweepers to clear it out. And the dance for vision will eventually end in somebody making a play, whether that's caught out of position, whether that's committing for the Baron and forcing RNG's hand. But in this situation, those double clouds are actually going to start paying off dividends. RNG can move between those waves pretty quickly, get in and out to set up.
It does help them with the split push game, but even with that third Cloud Drake on the way, RNG is going to hope for much different Drakes from there. Like an Infernal or Mountain would all help more. And you can two-man Baron with Taric. This is sneaky. As they show the 1-3-1, they go for the Baron. The jungler's on the outside. Ming's not having any of it, though. I really like that call from Fnatic, but it didn't work.
It's too easy, though, for RNG to walk through their own jungle because they have vision there. They can see what's happening. They're like, we're not going to face check someone at the moment. And even if they do, it's mainly a tank because, of course, Rekkles is needed at the Baron itself. So this delay in the game is in RNG's favor. They just want to keep scaling with this comp. He had 3 items now on Uzi. He's a serious threat.
Caps was lingering towards the bottom half of the map, has been sitting inside this little bush in front of that Merkwolf camp for quite a while as Gnar's just about to time out. So Boomerang Blade, slow down any sort of engagement. XiaoHu, he's going to pop. Okay, this time around, Caps is nearby. So he's in range for the hero's entrance. That's a good Equinox silencing sOAZ and Baron. He needs to be forced away from a big one from XiaoHu. Sends Fnatic packing.
They don't have the damage to take down the Baron fast enough, and they don't have the setup to just turn and fight against RNG instead.
Yeah, RNG is getting pretty comfortable in this situation as they complete the static shiv onto XiaoHu. And to note about Uzi's lore dominance regards, he's able to skip the QSS this game because he made it through laning phase with cleanse to keep this CS up right there, and XiaoHu now going to work on the sideways.
Now he's doing so much damage to these structures. He pushed bottom lane, he's now pushing top lane. The gold difference is negligible in Rekkles, realizing the only damage there on his team. He's picked up a Guardian Angel.
Oh, no, I don't like that at all. You are the main damage threat here. You need to trust in the peel from your team and the Taric ulti. It's not about you specifically being jumped by RNG, because they want to just try and kill the front line as fast as possible and see maybe if some of Uzi's shots here can actually hit the back line, but that should not be enough to straight up kill Rekkles. Delaying further damage items is not a good choice in my opinion.
It's one of the things Uzi did last game as well when he was ahead of the curve building Randwoods instead of Frozen Mallet. The GA is not going to help Fnatic accomplish their goals in this game, which is needing to force those team fights and cuts for a beat.
Started here by Broxah with the help of Rekkles. sOAZ actually uses the plant, gets over the wall.
No, he walks right around the side.
Gonna be in just a little bit late. Skeleton Crab control in favor of Fnatic. They get their hands on their first dragon of the game.
Now there are some other options as well if you're stuck in this position as a team and you just can't get down the Baron. You can actually go to the bottom lane and try and attack whoever is split pushing. There's double TP, so both swords and caps can be there. You can even send down Rekkles, because in case they get the kill, they can still TP in with 4 members and fight. sOAZ right now taking a bad trade.
And there's potential that this game is broken by one of those plays as Uzi cleanses away the Broxah sejuani ultimate, because the first team to kill one of the split pushers can immediately start forcing Baron and going for the 5v4. So watch for Uzi sneaking up on the side lane, watch for Rekkles or Jesiz with one of those cheeky roams, because this has been in a stalemate for too long for someone not to try that soon.
Instantaneous cleanse from Uzi to get out of that glacial prison. Fnatic starting to run out of options, starting to maybe be in trouble. We're entering the late game. And this Corki and Twitch are really, really going to take over. Now, admittedly, there are still tools, right? Multiple taunts, crowd control, cosmic radiance. So Fnatic, they can still win teamfights. It's just significantly harder.
And there's another thing here. At some point, you got to take the 50-50 at Baron and just say, you know what? We're not doing anything.
Even after the last steals?
Even after the last steals, it is still a 50-50. It's better than letting the enemy carries get to 4 to 5 items by just sitting and letting them farm.
This could be it.
They're starting it now.
That RNG ward once again spotting Fnatic at the end of the pit. Gymnasium standard comes down from Mlxg. RNG are around. XiaoHu, by the way, making his way from the bottom lane. He's going to start teleporting. sOAZ fires out the...
You get the teleport, you're fine. They've now stopped XiaoHu's ability to match sOAZ in the split push because they gained a teleport advantage. That's a decent win for Fnatic at this stage in the game.
Game of inches Can Fnatic play the map well enough to take advantage, though? That's the next question.
Well, we know that sOAZ, if he's against the Shen, he's winning that one hard, and he can actually start putting pressure on towers in that 1v1. So they're hoping LetME goes down to the bottom side with his global, and sOAZ can match that.
And this game is in stark contrast to the frantic nature of the previous two games. Like, we had both Fnatic and RNG have large leads that they were unable to capitalize on and get it swung back on them. But this game, no one's made the plays, or the mistakes for that matter, to get the large leads and to have that happen. But then you have to think about the overall team compositions and what RNG's goals were in this game. They were the ones that just wanted to be extremely late in the game, and they are getting what they want.
Exactly. Fnatic's comp was winning fights. They could actually risk going into enemy jungle and have Mlxg engage onto them with the Taric nearby and just brute force their way in to clear out that jungle and stop RNG from just constantly walking in, place a ward over the Baron, and just say, yep, you're not doing the Baron, we keep stalling.
And XiaoHu is huge this game. He's almost at 6 items. Caps hasn't played much Galio, and when we see Galio picked by so many mid laners in this tournament, it looks comically easy to win with, right? You think, wow, this champion absolutely has everything. But those teams put so many hours into perfecting that strategy and knowing exactly how to play Galio. We're not seeing that type of map control from Fnatic in the mid game. But here they go on to Baron. Once again, XiaoHu doesn't have TP, and he just showed against sOAZ.
All right, XiaoHu and sOAZ trading blow for blow. sOAZ about to Gnar out, flashes over the wall. Rocket's not going to be enough to kill him, but that summoner spell blown. Teleport's available for him on the Baron fight.
All of RNG is still around here. They want to try and force Fnatic away from that Baron. Mlxg is there. And once again, Fnatic step away. Do not want to risk a 50-50 smite battle.
Ming ended up using his wish for that siege in the bottom lane, and RNG equalized the middle tower at 35 minutes onto the clock. It's now an even goal game. Basically, 500 difference in Fnatic. They just don't seem to have the answer.
And we've had this conversation about whether or not you should 50-50 Baron a lot. Because conventionally you think if you play perfectly, we never have to risk a 50-50. And that's why teams get constantly criticized when they go for it and it gets stolen away. However, if the 50-50 Baron is your only chance of winning because not opting into it means the other team will outscale and split push, you have to be willing to go for it. And you also have to train how to secure Baron, which is the worry for Fnatic because it does not seem like they have been very good at that. Controlling where Mlxg goes, making sure they're getting the vision, making sure they're forcing the other team into desperation plays. And that's another reason that all the 50-50s in the series have gone to RNG, because they do it so often in the LPL.
Again, the push and the vision is really the biggest problem for Fnatic. Like, once you start the Baron and you don't have that set up, you're kind of trapping yourself. Also against the Twitch. How are you ever going to turn on the Twitch if you're sitting 5-man together in a Baron pit? So again, that's another reason why Fnatic are so scared to actually stay in there when RNG show up. Early in the game, they could have brute forced their way into the jungle, try and force a fight, get full vision control, and then maybe push towers or go for Baron. They didn't do it. Now they're stuck in this really annoying situation where for 15 minutes they're trying to get the Baron, and RNG just keep doing the same thing. Ward over the pit and say, well, we see you.
Oh, they backed away. Let's get a ward in the river outside the pit that isn't consistently swept the instant it's put down. For some reason at this point, there's a sweeper off
this whole area. How Fnatic don't have control of it. I mean, XiaoHu, by the way, just took that tower. He's about to get his teleport back up and available. And in 36 minutes, he's picked up 460 CS. The record was set or broken by Uzi, 700 in around 55 minutes in the previous game. XiaoHu is on track to beat that if they don't win the game beforehand. All of a sudden, RNG are able to push Fnatic out of the river because sOAZ is shoving down the bottom lane. RNG can challenge some of that vision.
Again, sOAZ is another opening for Fnatic. If they can make a play around him, send Galio down there, put Rekkles in the bot lane with him, and try and gank whoever he's facing, especially if it is the Corki, and be ready to TP into the Baron pit with your two members, the Galio and the Gnar, in case RNG are trying to rush it down as an answer.
And XiaoHu has completed his Mercurial Scimitar. He's actually shredding sOAZ right now until sOAZ can complete that Randwoods and the entire teleport cooldown.
Go again.
They're going for it. That ward in the back, as well as the flag. No, they're in there. Do they go for it?
Let's find out. 5,000 hit points. Teleports coming down from sOAZ as well as XiaoHu. LetMe's up in the front line. Cosmic Radiance will buy some time. Baron's picked up by Fnatic, and it's a flag and drag out for Mlxg. Uzi looking to open up. Hasn't fired that yet. Chain of Corruption buys some time. Hero's Entrance will save Broxah's life ever so slightly. Uzi still looking for a kill. Legends never die until Caps is going down. He's going to get shut down, but securing the Baron, Fnatic have got some more options.
But where does the Elder Drake go? Cap's down for 56 seconds and no minion waves in position. Also delaying the recall of sOAZ, even if it is Baron empowered with no teleport up on him. RNG immediately going for the Elder. Both junglers still have smite.
See, Broxah is here with the blast cone as well, but giving up your life for this one is always a tough one. You have the Baron buff.
They already got the Baron smite. Broxah doesn't even go for it.
Only 2 Cloud Drakes over on RNG's side, but there's still the burn obviously coming in from this Elder Drake here. But now both teams are sitting. Fnatic is like, we finally got the Baron buff, and now we have to respect the Elder Drake buff from the other team, and they might actually not be able to do that much with this one, because now they gotta really respect the engage.
Yeah, and let's talk about the concepts here. You're trying to stop Mlxg from getting in range for smite. That's why the sejuani ultimate is used onto Broxah. But Fnatic doesn't actually have enough damage to Baron, and it becomes the true 50-50, with both junglers getting their smite off, and Broxah being the one to finish it off. And then the fight after that, RNG is really strong in team fights with the items on XiaoHu and Uzi, so Fnatic is in full disengagement.
Almost impossible for Rekkles to sit there and auto-attack, because there's always someone either landing, you know, the spray and pray from Uzi, the long-range rocket from XiaoHu, or potentially a taunt from LetME. So Rekkles not able to compete with the Twitch, and no one can really compete with a late-game Twitch who gets to open up with that ulti on multiple members.
Yeah, and there is a strange feeling in this game of inevitability that RNG is just going to hit late game and then get the fights.
We like them already, baby.
They're there. They're 38 minutes and they have full builds on both of their marksmen. Can they actually get the fight? Because if they get picked off, we're going to game 5.
All right, Ming is going to flash away to safety. Glacial Prison buys some time as LetMe's the man that gets targeted. Fnatic need to win this game to stay alive. If they don't pull a rabbit out of the hat, they will be eliminated from Worlds 2017. XiaoHu continues to chase forward as the chain of corruption dissuades any further chase. sOAZ continues to go low, gets to Gnar out, and Mlxg gets stunned against the wall.
Big ulti.
Will buy a lot of time. Cataclysm locks all of Fnatic into the pit. Nobody has died again. Uzi is once again the target as Cap uses the ultimate to escape. A flash forward from Uzi. He gets one. Broxah's poison. That's a double. Attention. Cap will be next. It's a double kill for Uzi. Cap will be run down, shot down, and killed. RNG fight 4.
RNG been waiting and waiting all game long for this one team fight. They got full items on their carries, and they run straight at Fnatic.
That might be all it takes. If they keep this minion wave alive, they will be able to end the game during these death timers.
Nothing Fnatic can do. Jesiz stands down the barrel of 5 members of Royal Never Give Up. They are tearing down the Nexus turrets, and the last Fnatic member falls. Guangzhou is on their feet. Legends never die. When Guangzhou's calling out your name, RNG advance to the semi-finals.
And there may have been 18 minutes of that game where nobody dies, but it was all a matter of time until RNG could get that one fight. Fnatic did not have the late game. They were banking on getting a pick on XiaoHu or Uzi so they could maybe make a push with Taric, but the later that game got, the more likely it was that RNG would be in semifinals.
And Fnatic just almost felt like they ran out of options. They had no play left in the book other than just try and take the 50-50 smite, but it ended up happening so late in the game that as soon as we actually saw the play, there was already full items on XiaoHu and Uzi.
And speaking of this RNG team playing the slow match, 10 kills in a 40-minute game is unlike any RNG we have seen at a World Championship before. They can play defense and outscale instead of jumping into unnecessary team fights time and time again. And that has been critical in so many of their victories on their path to the semifinals.
So much focus on the defensive vision, the setup to keep stalling. They will now face SKT in the semi-final. Another team who also wants to play for late game, so should be a very good one. But Rekkles and Fnatic, it is so tough. 0-3 in week 1. Bounce back week 2, make it all the way into the quarterfinals. It's the first team ever to do that after starting down 0-3.
Setting records, but the Cinderella story must come to an end. Fnatic are eliminated from Worlds 2017. RNG, they have themselves yet another shot at SKT. These two organizations have history, have a World Finals history under their belts. And Uzi will have one more shot. Of course, some difficult emotions on the side of Fnatic, but let's be honest, they were the underdogs. It's a team that has struggled, but until today had risen to nearly every single threat in front of them.
They were the underdogs, but it was a close series. A lot of games back and forth, hard to predict who was going to win the single games we saw. Even with the big gold leads, it wasn't necessarily locked down and you were going to close it out.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things about being a competitor in these World Championships is everyone loses except for the champion. So they have to have this moment. And Fnatic getting the applause of the fans on stage.
Absolutely huge credit to the fans here in Guangzhou, cheering on not only RNG, but Fnatic as they take to the stage. Rekkles struggling to get up, and we heard it, emotional words, emotional stories. He actually said, this might be my last Worlds.
And it is the summer split MVP of the EULCS who missed the finals in the EULCS. Moved on to Worlds though because they won the Gauntlet.
Very tough moment for him here, wanting to win the World Championship so badly, overcome by emotion.
You feel it in the room, you feel it in the venue. Europe are eliminated from the World Championships, but by God did they go down with a fight. Yesterday Misfits, today Fnatic. The crowd here cheering on. Of course, the all-Chinese squad advances to semifinals. And that's going to be very, very spicy because RNG, they have some areas that SKT could punish, but maybe this SKT might not be able to.
I mean, turn that around. There's definitely a lot of areas from SKT that RNG can punish. That should be a super close semifinal, and I can't wait for that one.
Wow, what a game. What a